action, no messing around. Pretty soon they're coming to your town. The way you like it, way it used to be. Smoky Mountain Championship Wrestling.
Outlaws.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast, the podcast where two middle-aged, cynical and jaded Scottish wrestling fans try to find any modicum of joy through the greatest form of entertainment in history, professional wrestling. Professional wrestling, Adam, just like you used to like it. What is the Smoky Mountain catchphrase?
Is it something like you
it
liked
used
it
to
like it used to be, or something like that? Yeah.
Smoky Mountain Wrestling, like it used to be. So we and Adam are just off our second season of Lucha Underground and decided that we wanted to completely go against everything that stood for and start watching Smoky Mountain Wrestling. We watched the first 4 episodes in the last couple of weeks and we're going to talk about it today. Spoiler alert, we might not be speaking about Smoky Mountain Wrestling again.
Did you make it through episode 4?
No. I'm going to be honest. I could say yes. I didn't. I tried, and tried again. But no, I didn't. No. That's terrible. It's 45 minutes of wrestling.
Yeah. I know. See, you'd like weeks ago when we first decided we were doing this, you had, I think, watched the start of episode 1, and you messaged me saying something like, "Yep, this is going to be great," or something like that. And then I don't know how many minutes you actually watched of it, and then
first the entry music,
and then the wheels kind of came off. So I watched 2 episodes, and then I thought, these things they'll take a bit of time, and then they'll get into a rhythm, and then the next 2 episodes and 3 wasn't easy, and 4 was a bit of a slog as well.
So let's go back to the beginning with this and talk about what we know about Smoky Mountain Wrestling before we got ourselves into this position. Yeah. For me, I knew that this was the baby of Jim Cornette. I knew that it was going to be old school wrestling, good versus evil, and bad guy versus good guy. I knew we were getting that. I knew we were in like sort of gym, like local gymnasiums and all that sort of stuff. I knew we would probably have lots of old women in the crowd shouting and wanting to beat up the heels. I knew that Rick Rubin was the sort of quiet. He was the money behind it, wasn't he?
The financier.
There you go. Yes. Yeah. And he's talked before about being like a sort of lifelong wrestling fan. Yeah. I knew that we would have some familiar faces and people had stopped by Smoky Mountain, and the WWF had a working partnership, so to speak, with them. And I thought that this was what I wanted to watch. I don't know if I like wrestling anymore. To be honest, I genuinely don't know if I like watching wrestling anymore. So I think we both thought that when we got to Lucha Underground. And then we thought, at least this is different. Yeah. And episodic. And totally different.
So I think if I'm remembering right, the idea from this for us was kind of we would message back and forth about how cool it would have been to have followed wrestling in the territory days, and to have something that was accessible to watch that was like that. We felt like this would maybe scratch that itch a little bit. But we'll talk about it as we get through it, but I think we're both in agreement that this probably would have been good to go along to your local arena and sit in the crowd and watch weekly or however frequently it came to, the one just down the street from you. Yeah. But how well that translates to binging as a TV show.
That is the big issue. And the format of it is weekly episodic TV that is reminding you what's just happened, pretty much.
Yeah.
But within 45 minutes of a TV show, you don't need, if we're watching 4 episodes at a time, you don't need reminded that Smoky Mountain Wrestling is the place to be, folks. They're doing some great things here, and they said that a lot.
Yeah, they did.
But we got reminders of angles from the previous week. Obviously, like we're saying, this was built for weekly viewing, and I'm with you. I think I'd really enjoy it from that point of view.
It's funny when you hear, I think, some of the talking heads that you get in documentaries or podcasts, and they're talking about the way wrestling used to be structured was that they would have the TV to help them sell out the arena for the show they were going to, and how much that's changed in modern times where, it's about the TV deal. It's about the, buys and subscriptions and merchandise and all that kind of thing. It's no longer, they'll sell out their arenas and they'll be very happy to do that, but it isn't to drive people into those arenas. It's actually become more important that people are watching on TV now than it was in those old days where the TV was the vehicle.
To the point where that's become a discussed part of wrestling media, journalism.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we hoped we were going into, was just a bit of a reset almost, and a bit of a, let's take things to a much simpler time, and something to just sort of enjoy, but it's just not worked out that way. And the thing is, I think we're going to be able to sit here and say things about it that were enjoyable and are enjoyable, but there's 200 episodes of this. And it's just... even just picking... I don't know. For me, in my leisure, pick an odd episode. I might do that in the future. Pick up something where Lance Storm and Chris Jericho arrive as a tag team. I think they call it Thrill Seekers. And something like that, really interesting, I think, to watch, but there's no way I'm wading through all this sludge to try and find a couple of little diamonds.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some things that you liked about it?
Okay, so when it started, you've got your old school graphics and old school music, and I don't always mind that, but it's pretty old school and pretty cheap.
It reminded me of watching Grandstand on a Saturday afternoon when you're little.
There were a couple of things that I did like about it. The first one, and it was more prominent in episode 2 and 3, I think, was Jim Cornette. Because Jim Cornette, as a talker, is so far ahead of anyone else that's on this show. And it's unfortunate in a way, because a lot of the wrestling talent, they're decent in the ring, they look like they know what they're doing, but some of the promos are bad. These guys do not, talking is not coming naturally to them.
Do you think, they speak about, when you hear old wrestlers, they talk about spending a day doing TV and they spend a day doing promos and all that sort of stuff in WWF, that is. Do you think these guys are one and done? It must be.
Yeah. Oh, there's some of them. Absolutely. Because there's one, and I'll have it somewhere noted down, where the guy was tripping all over himself. He just couldn't get the words out. And it just kept going. And I thought, okay, so there were no redos here. Whatever was said was what was getting broadcast. And I did wonder is it the kind of thing where they would then, you'd get Cornette or someone like that saying, you got to brush up on that, But I think the contrast really came at the moments that Cornette was on and talking, because it comes so naturally to him.
Yeah.
And it was a chore getting through the vast majority of promos, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, Cornette cut a couple of scorching hot promos Just as soon as he comes on screen and he looks at the crowd and he calls them hillbillies and you can hear them shouting back at him, and it's just like his brain's on fire and he's just flowing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, effortless. I think Dutch Mantell was really good I really liked him on commentary.
Yeah. So he did episode 1, and did he do? I think he did 4 as well, because he was more featured in 2 and 3
as a wrestler.
Yeah, because I think he had something going on with, was it Brian Lee?
Yeah,
so
and that's prime time.
Yeah. So Brian Lee, I think, was the fake Undertaker.
Yes, yeah.
And I think he was in that motorcycle gang faction.
Yeah, was
the DOA.
Chains.
Yes, he was Chains. So, as the guys were coming out, one of the fun things was to look them up. Some of them you recognised, we've got like Robert Gibson, we've got Barry Horowitz, we've got Brian Lee, and then, superstar of the show, Hollywood Bob Holly, obviously.
Oh, amazing. Talk about what Bob Holly was, his gimmick and what it looked like, because this was I never knew. The earliest I knew of Bob Holly was Sparky Plug.
Yes, yeah. So he's presented as being the big deal, and he's cool and he's charismatic and all that. He's wearing sunglasses and he's got like the sort of flashy gear on the go. And then when he's doing promos, he's talking about how, I think the name that he name drops is Julia Roberts is like waiting for him or something like that. So he's got to go. He's presented and making himself out to be this like Hollywood star that's gracing the Smoky Mountain Wrestling with his presence. He's above that.
Yeah.
And he's decent in the ring. Bob Holly was always decent in the ring. I think he's actually allowed to do a bit more in this environment in terms of wrestling than he did in a lot, because he became Hardcore Holly pretty quickly in WWE, and it was all the hardcore matches. But I mean, he's presented as a star, which is like really interesting from the point of view of, even when he had a good run in WWE, he was never presented as the star. He was just a guy that was there.
Yeah.
And obviously the competition's at an entirely different level, but I found it interesting just to see him presented like this and being this character.
Yeah, me too. It came out, it was very Hitman-esque, the gear he's wearing.
It was,
He's got the big sort of bouncy mullet, curly mullet type thing, smiling. The thing that I liked about him was that, two things, but he's smiling and you're not 100% sure. You think he's maybe a face, but he's obviously this LA-based smug actor character. So he does stuff like when his opponents turned their back, he like jumps on them and attacks them and stuff like that. I quite liked all that. I think that was great. The other thing about it is that in 1992 you can get away with a gimmick that a guy is a big deal somewhere else across America, because you can't check it out. And that was quite entertaining when Cornette was talking about him being a big deal to Bob Caudle on commentary, and he's just like, oh, is he now, and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and are we thinking Hulk Hogan stole the Hollywood Hogan name from? He obviously watched Bob Holly.
Absolutely, yeah. And he did do a variation of some sort of leg drop as his finishing move as well. So so there you go. Had you ever seen Dutch Mantell wrestle before? I assume not.
No, I'd seen him as a manager type in WWE a few years ago.
Yeah, he's with Jack Swagger.
He was, and I think he was a wee bit militant in his role, Dutch Mantell.
What were they doing, like a Patriots gimmick type thing?
I think it was, and I've also seen him on loads of, like, you get these round the table discussions, there's a, I'm trying to think what it's called. I think the Rock's production company was involved in it. It's had Jeff and Jerry Jarrett talking about Territories, Tales from the Territories.
Oh yeah.
I think he featured on some episodes of that. And
Okay.
it's just like your sort of old school guy. But what I hadn't seen him really do was wrestle.
Right.
I think I'm sure it was him that I heard a story on a podcast that I burst out laughing when I heard it, where the steroid scandal as it was breaking in WWE, Jerry Jarrett got all his wrestlers together. He's like, you guys better not all be on steroids. And Dutch Mantel said to him, well, damn, Jerry, most of us ain't even on food.
He's got of course he's got a podcast. Everyone's got a podcast. It is quite entertaining to listen to, and he's got good insight as well. I would have said. I'd never seen him wrestling either. He's terrifying looking.
Yeah,
sort of. Just to look at as a wrestler, it's there's hair everywhere.
Yeah, there's hair everywhere. He's quite like big with hunched shoulders. Like, yeah, you sort of picture him. He would be standing over you. It'd be quite intimidating.
And he had the Tejano gimmick with the bull rope, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
And he got involved with that's primetime Brian Lee, and he was obviously, they were pitting him, I would assume, as their sort of number one babyface.
Yeah.
Brian Lee.
Yeah, I would say so.
But the match there, as far as I can remember, Adam, the match there between them two that they sort of built from episode 1 to 3, ended up in a bit of a funny finish, did it?
Yes. I'll be able to find this somewhere. I just remember it being a bit of a letdown the way it was all done. So I'd say what happened in the match between them was, do we talk about Ron Wright? You know,
we can get into Ron Wright after this.
So there's a heel manager that we'll talk about in a minute that is ringside for this, and hands a set of brass knucks to Dutch Mantel, but Brian Lee blocks the punch and gets the knucks and knocks out Dutch Mantel with it. But he's clearly just not that intelligent, Brian Lee, because he fails to do what you're supposed to do, which is take the knucks off and throw them away or put them in your trunks. He just leaves them on his hand. The ref's down counting and sees them on his hands like, that's a disqualification. So Dutch Mantel won the match.
So is that the psychology of your babyface? See, with the sort of shiny good versus bad evil, you would assume that the babyface would throw them away as opposed to use them. But I suppose we're sort of... Aye.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ron Wright then, because he was something I didn't expect. And I think in principle, on paper, it's quite entertaining actually, but having to see it 4 times on episodes is pretty difficult.
Yeah, that was the tricky thing. Yeah.
And I can imagine this being right up Cornette Street, coming up with this guy that I assume was a former wrestler. He's now in a wheelchair. And first episode where we're introduced to him, he's he's laying it on thinner than he does, but he's still laying it on a bit thick with the whole, I'm just an old man and in a lot of pain, and I need to raise some money for my operations that I need on my hips and my knees. He's going to be hanging about Smoky Mountain Wrestling to try and find a talent that he can manage to make some money for him. And honestly, the first episode, I was like, why the fuck are they interviewing this guy? I got worked beyond work. But
I'm assuming he must have been a decent name somewhere. I didn't actually look him up. I looked up a lot of the in-ring talent as we were going, but I didn't look him up.
I didn't either. But yeah, I assume so too, and I assume he was known to fans in that area and all that sort of thing. And you can, like the fans in the gyms or the areas that they're at. Is that you looking them up?
Yeah, it's hard to judge from what essentially is just a Wikipedia page that I'm looking at how big a star he was. He'd been all around the territories between the 50s and the 90s.
Wow.
So he had a long career as wrestler and as manager. But I think he'll have definitely... okay. He fought Antonio Inoki.
No wonder he needs operations on his hips.
Randy Savage. He's spanned quite a few generations of wrestlers, I think. Yeah.
Nice.
But what is this? His ability to draw heat was so great that he was legitimately shot at 3 times by fans, as well as being slashed with a razor, resulting in a wound needing 160 stitches.
Holy shit.
He also had his personal small plane burned by persons unknown, possibly wrestling fans. And Wright noted with regret that he had caused 4 or 5 elderly spectators to have heart attacks over his antics.
Brilliant.
Oh, bring him in.
That's some old school wrestling right there. So this gimmick of his was basically that he was a rundown wrestler. He needed money for his operations, but he was also a crafty bastard, and he was going to help the heels.
Yeah.
And I suppose the thing that I did like about it was that it wasn't just trying to get involved in one match or with one person. He was getting involved in quite a lot of different matches and trying to align himself, I think, with different heels.
Yeah, he was playing the odds, I think, because I mean they leaned into this quite thick as well. But he'd do his little bit, and then they'd go back to the announce team, and whether it was Bob Caudle with Dutch Mantell or with Jim Cornette, the colour heelish announcer is fawning all over Ron Wright and just saying what a nice man he is and all that.
Kindly old man. Every
single time Bob Caudle's like, no, this isn't my understanding.
And Bob Caudle, we've definitely come across Caudle before on WCW old like the late 80s pay-per-views, I'm sure. There's someone, I mean, he's clearly very well respected. He wouldn't be here, or he wouldn't have been on Jim Crockett either.
Yeah.
But there's something about him. I wonder if it's the equivalent of watching AEW now and JR being on it. And he's just, and like a young kid being like, what is this old guy talking about? But he just gives off the impression that he's not really 100% sure what's going on 90% of the time.
Yeah, I think he'd had his heyday in the territories as well, I'm sure. Bob
as
Caudle.
A wrestler?
I think I don't know if he was ever a wrestler, but I know he was a really highly thought of announcer.
Oh, really?
But he's, I think, a bit long in the tooth by this stage. It was it was a name I knew immediately when it came on, which is maybe part of the point of bringing him in as well, because they're not going to be able to, being realistic about it, get somebody who's on commentary for WWE or WCW at this point. So, yeah, go with a guy that has a bit of name value.
Another character that stuck out to me, and I did enjoy to start off with, certainly. I don't recall seeing him in the 3rd episode, but I'm sure I would have. The commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Bullet Bob Armstrong.
Bullet Bob Armstrong.
There's definitely something there about Bullet Bob. He, that's Road Dogg's dad, right?
That's Road Dogg's dad, yeah.
He jumps off the screen. He's quite imposing. I assume he was a wrestler.
He was, yeah.
He looks like a big man. He's like that little bit older, and he's very clear about all the sort of different rules that he's going to impose on Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and I'm going to be fining for this and fining for that. I think if we kept watching this, we would have been killing ourselves laughing every time he popped up, because he just, I don't know if it's the perm or the way that he was holding himself, but he was entertaining to me.
Nice. I did wonder if Road Dogg would pop up at any point. One of his brothers does. Scott Armstrong has a wrestling match. I believe he's been a WWE referee for quite a while.
Yep.
So he had a match. I think it was Dutch Mantell. He wrestled in one of the episodes. here. He's pretty young. I don't think it ever quite worked. He's had a good long career as a ref, but I don't think it ever worked out for him as a wrestler. But yeah, I did wonder if we stuck with it. Kind of assume we would have ended up seeing Road Dogg at some point.
Right. And was the brother? The brother was like a jobber in WCW. Was he called? Is that Brad Armstrong?
So there's a Brad Armstrong and a Scott Armstrong. I think Brad Armstrong was higher rated, but maybe died.
Oh right. Really?
Yeah. So Scott Armstrong, not as gifted in ring, but had a good career as a referee.
So am I confused? Am I thinking of someone else? Was there? Do you remember somebody in WCW and he would wear a T-shirt that said like the Armstrong curse on it?
Yes. So I think Brad Armstrong was in WCW.
Right, I wonder if that's who that is.
Before he died. So he died in 2012. So would have had a decent career. Yeah, so he is brother of Road Dogg Scott Armstrong, and there's a Steve Armstrong as well, and they're all sons of Bob Armstrong.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Did you like Bullet Bob? Hi.
Yeah. I thought he had I think when this started, I wasn't sure how it was going to be structured, because we all know Jim Cornette's behind it, and I assume creatively driving it, but I wasn't sure if they would have an on-screen authority figure. They do, but I think it's referenced he's not there every time. Like, I think there's an episode where it's definitely referenced that he's trying to work on a deal in Japan.
Yes, that's right. That's the second episode. That's right.
So he's not there. And I kind of thought, well, I didn't know what Cornette would be in this, but he's just basically like a heel character. You know, he's there. I know he does commentary for 2 shows. Is he managing here?
He keeps teasing a tag team, and I assume he brings the bodies. Yes. And I assume that's who he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And he seems to come out and just cut a promo as well, which you would do if you had Jim Cornette, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah. So I think beyond Jim Cornette, who I don't think would have wanted to make the show all about him, even if it does end up being that way at times. I wasn't sure what they would do for authority figure, but I thought it was quite interesting the way they've done it, because I suppose it underlines what they want it to be, which is you've got a guy who is a bit old school, who's talking about going old school and going back to basics and how there will be rules and they will be followed and things like that. And him, I think, having that background to a lot of viewers and being a respected wrestler, I think that would work. But yeah, he definitely had a bit of charisma about him, Bob Armstrong, which some of the people that we see were lacking.
Like the Fantastics. What did we have? The Fantastics, and there was another guy, White Lightning, Tim Horner.
Yes, White Lightning, Tim Horner. Did it seem like they were maybe trying to make him a thing? But
yeah, definitely.
Nobody was really buying it.
Reminded me of, I wish I could remember his name, and I should have wrote it down, but there was a guy that they were kind of forcing down our throats when we were watching early 90s WCW. He would wrestle like young Brian Pillman. I'll go back at some point and try and remember, but
I feel like I can picture the look of the kind of guy you're talking about.
Like happy-go-lucky, blonde hair, sort of spring off the ropes. I didn't love White Lightning, Tim Horner, and he struggled with his promos, but the Fantastics may have both been dropped on their head as children, because they really struggled. And like they were both like smiling at Bob Caudle with a sort of vacant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What do we have? Bobby and Jackie Fulton. Had you heard of them before?
No. I felt like I'd heard the name The Fantastics before, but when it got down to the individual names, they didn't ring a bell for me.
And they had a rivalry going with Ivan Koloff?
Ivan Koloff, and, well, initially, Ivan Koloff's nephew, was it?
Yes.
Who was...
Big Vladimir Koloff.
Yeah, Big Vladimir Koloff, that's right. Ivan Koloff definitely, sort of legendary figure. He'd been around for ages.
He looked like a cannibal or something. He was terrifying looking.
He did, yeah. There were quite a few names going around. Like, I was quite surprised to see Paul Orndorff.
Same. Especially, he got the jobber entrance as well. He was just stood in the ring.
He did, yeah. And there's like some of your sort of classic. Well, Robert Gibson is there. I think he is maybe in the first match.
But can we just talk about why did Robert Gibson look like complete shit?
I mean, maybe when he's not got Ricky Morton there with him, he just goes too hard. Maybe. And there were a few, like, I felt like obviously we had Bob Holly, Dutch Mantell, the Koloffs. There were a lot of names, but there was nobody. It was easy to see them using Bob Holly as a star, Brian Lee as a star, and then leaning on your likes of your Dutch Mantells.
Yeah.
Because there was nobody as yet leaping out at you to say, I'm going to be your guy. Other than maybe Bob Holly.
I wasn't getting that for Bob Holly. I was definitely getting that for Brian Lee, just because of the way that they were talking about him, and they were giving him promo time. He was on all right promo as well, and that's prime time. And I tell you who cuts, and I don't know if he pops up in any other episodes, but this guy popped up at the end of episode 2 and cut the most batshit crazy promo I've ever seen. Terry Gordy.
Yes.
Does he pop up on any other episodes?
No. So I'm assuming he will. Because, you know, Terry Gordy's obviously a legend.
A name, yeah.
And I think it was said that his drop-off was maybe quite extreme. I think he had, you know, drug issues that led to issues.
Was it Terry Gordy fighting ECW as well?
I think he did, yeah. And I think WWE brought him in, and then we're just like, this isn't the same Terry Gordy as there used to be. I think maybe as a bit of a favour to his Freebird from his Freebird brethren. But yeah, if they're having him say a few words, they're bound to use him. You've got to think. And Hector Guerrero, impressed by Hector?
Well, I mean, he was definitely there, and he wrestled a match. So that is Eddie's brother.
Yes.
That I was not aware of. Obviously, the Guerrero's got a big family, big wrestling family. I'd never heard of Hector, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. He looked like he had duct tape around his knees.
Yes.
That was bizarre. He was really thin.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a wrestler, it's something you don't really notice. He looked really thin. I mean, he looked like a Guerrero.
He did. He did, yeah. I think this was one of a few moments where the sort of timing of this confused me a bit. So we're in 1992, where Eddie Guerrero is, I assume, already a thing. He's working his way
in Japan or something.
Yeah, yeah, and then he'll land in ECW and then WCW before coming to WWE. And he comes to WWE only 8 years maybe from where we're at here.
Yeah.
But this feels longer ago. Everything, like, if you'd told me Hector was his uncle or, you know, a further generation away from Eddie, I would have thought, yeah, that seems right. For them to be brothers just seems weird in my head.
That's a really good point, and I totally agree. Aye. Well, I was going to say it'd be interesting to have seen someone from that generation pop up, but I suppose Bob Holly's probably not that far apart in ages with what Eddie would have been.
Yeah, it'd be pretty similar. Yeah, because I'm trying to remember when it would have been that Bob Holly goes to WWE as Sparky Plug. What would that be, 96, 95, 96 maybe? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Was he like a NASCAR
Yeah.
driver or something?
Yeah. Yeah, Sparky Plug. I just remember him, like, there were a few guys came out at a Royal Rumble that I didn't really know who they were, and he was one of them. And whatever it was that Conan was one of them. It's Max Moon, that was it. For
nice.
Conan. Yeah. And then they, became very different characters a bit down the line.
That does sound about 96-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah, just when they're still just clinging on to a few of the occupational things before they make the move.
They should have called one of these eras the occupation era.
Yeah.
The dentist, the gobbledygooker. It's funny because in the first episode, there was definitely things that I thought, even them saying the way you used to like it, wrestling the way you used to like it, and I remember thinking, yeah, this is what I want. Like, this is what I really want. I want wrestling. Like, maybe that I've never really had it before, because as a youngster, we had caricature wrestlers pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a type of wrestling that I crave to watch. But then, by episode 3, when they're still saying it about 6 times, and then the same guys are cutting the same promo about how people have been all around the world. I even said to my son, I was like, if I hear somebody say that they've been all around the world and now they're here in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, I'm going to jump out the window. I felt like everybody was saying it in their promos.
Because there definitely was there was what came across as a promo, but was basically an advert for you getting money together to have Smoky Mountain come and do their show in your school gymnasium or wherever it may be. That was a regular thing. I think that was done across every episode. But it went on about 4 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. But I suppose we have to think that there is no 200 episodes, right? So there only is what there is here. I don't know if they would be, at that point in time, do you think they would have been given a weekly slot, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
And they'd obviously been putting on shows that weren't televised.
Yes.
To get people in the buildings.
Yeah.
So, like, it makes sense why they're doing everything they're doing. It just comes back to the fact that it just doesn't work for what we're wanting it to work for.
Yeah. Because there were a few other things that caught my eye. There's a character called the Mighty Yankee that's a luchador.
Yes, El Grande Americano, before it was ever even considered. Amazing. And who is that?
I didn't look him up. The Mighty Yankee. When I heard the name announced, when I then, looked up at the screen, I just wasn't quite expecting to see what I saw. I thought it was going to be a guy in baseball cap and...
Oh, I remember that guy now that I've Googled him. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the guy that was Dirty White Boy.
Ah. Okay.
But yeah, he basically looks like a sock puppet.
Uh-huh.
He looks like somebody's found a luchador mask down the back of a couch and they've went, this is my gimmick.
The other thing that disappointed me, because it's Jim Cornette, I was sure somebody was going to debut coming out of a box. It's always been a thing. Cornette says, you want to get that guy over, have that motherfucker debut coming out of a box.
Maybe episode 5 is...
Maybe.
You could keep watching it if you like.
I think,
and report back.
Maybe one a month?
One a month. Okay, do that in your time. That's Adam's new Smoky Mountain Wrestling monthly podcast coming to wherever you get your podcasts.
It's nice to see that Barry Horowitz, so like famous jobber from WWE days, gets his TV time but he's still a jobber.
Yeah, you would have thought he'd be getting wins, eh? Like you go down to that level to potentially get yourself over, sort of thing.
Yeah. When I saw him against Brian Lee, I thought, okay, he's not winning against Brian Lee, but there was somebody else he had a match up against later on. It was your boy Tim Horner, and
he's never. He's the Roman Reigns of his time. Tim Horner is never going to beat him. Going back to I really enjoyed the Orndorff match. Talking about the matches and sort of, I wouldn't say lack of quality, but it's hard to see when you're watching the wrestling for the wrestling. But you know what I mean. These were sort of procedural matches more than anything. Orndorff's technical wrestling was really enjoyable to watch, actually.
Yeah. And they were making a big deal. I think it was in his match of the fact that the pile driver is illegal.
Oh yeah,
Smoky Mountain Wrestling. There were a few things. I think it was maybe Bob Armstrong was telling us about them. Like I think throwing somebody over the top rope, pile driver. We were slowly finding out some of the things that wouldn't be allowed in this wrestling. I think there's a threat by Rip Rogers to pile drive Paul Orndorff, but it's illegal. But Orndorff doesn't matter. He flips him over and gets the win. I was worried he wasn't gonna after, like you say, he got the jobber entrance. I thought, he's surely gonna win his match against Rip Rogers, which he did.
They talked about there was going to be a heavyweight tournament. Had that kicked off by the end of episode 4?
No.
Brian Lee's bound to win that, right?
Yeah. That seems set. Although I do know in a lot of old style territory wrestling, they did used to have a heel champion with the babyface chasing. But it seems like it would all be set up for Brian Lee to win it.
Yeah, I did wonder, like how we got the first episode and we sort of got introduced to maybe, I don't know, 10 wrestlers. In the second episode, we got introduced to a bunch more. I just wondered at what point we were going to start circulating the same people. It pretty much felt like, with the exception, obviously, we talked about Terry Gordy there, but with the exception of a couple, we'd met our nucleus.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I did wonder, would they maybe do if they did have that tournament for the title, would there maybe be a surprise entrant in the tournament who probably won't end up going on and winning it, because you need it to be a guy that's going to be on all your shows that's actually champion. But I wondered if they've got, which I think they basically always had, that working relationship with WWE, maybe they could get somebody in for their tournament.
Yeah. Now, I know that Taker's wrestled in Smoky Mountain. I know Shawn Michaels has as well.
Yeah.
I assumed that they would be, once it was a bit more... what's the word? Established.
Yeah.
Somebody that I would have liked to have seen, that we're never going to see in the first 4 episodes. I don't know at what point he would have been introduced, but Glenn Jacobs is quite a dominant wrestler in Smoky Mountain as the Unabomber.
Right, okay.
I think that would have been quite interesting to see, but I'm not sticking around for it, unfortunately. Unfortunately. What about, there was you mentioned Japan earlier, and there's like a segment with, what's his name, Wala Yamaguchi?
Yes.
And with a bunch of Japanese guys, and they're talking about doing exchanges.
Yes.
Do you know if that was a thing that they...
I didn't know. I assume it's one of those things where you probably wouldn't talk about on your TV unless it was going to happen.
That's fair.
But, yeah, it seemed like it was all chat and nothing had really changed by the end of episode 4 about that. But obviously we've got another 196 episodes to see that one come to fruition. But yeah, and I also thought at that point in time, would there be anyone, like, obviously I know American wrestlers that broke in or had established themselves in Japan. Think about Vader and guys like that. And I'm assuming this wouldn't be that, because I think Vader was either in or going to WCW.
round
probably,
about that time.
Yeah. But I probably wouldn't know an awful lot of actually Japanese wrestlers at that time, because I think even where there were some exchanges, I think it was maybe more on WCW TV that those guys ended up going across than WWE. I only really remember there was obviously Taka Michinoku that came across, but that would be a few years on from here. It'd probably be about six years on from here. And Funaki, and they were the only ones that I could really think of.
Who was in Kaientai? Was it? It was Funaki.
Yeah, it was Funaki, and I think there were a couple other guys. Like, because there was this older manager guy who was the one. He was the one that was going to
Choppy.
Val Venus. Choppy your pee-pee. Yeah. So I think there were maybe a few of them, but Funaki was maybe the only name that stuck. And I think for most of that, I just said his name not long ago. Takumi Shinoku was kind of on the babyface side, and they were on the heel team. But I think they all aligned at some point.
Under Triple H, they'd all be in the same stable, 100%.
And they would thrive.
Well, was it Dick to go or Dick Togo? Yes. I never knew which way it was.
Yeah, I always assumed that was an intention.
Of course it was. What about there was a guy that they introduced because one of the Koloffs had to go back to Russia.
Yes.
And they introduced this absolute charisma machine called Jimmy Golden.
Jimmy Golden, that was it.
I'd never heard of before. A weird alignment with the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff and Jimmy Golden.
Yeah.
He was dripping with charisma when he came on the screen.
He came out of nowhere. And then he just owned it. And then I assume he's just going to go away again at some point.
As soon as Vladimir comes back, he's just away back to his couch with his golden dressing gown on.
Although the sort of brawl that broke out at the end of the Koloff and Jimmy Golden against the Fantastics, that we've been praising Bullet Bob Armstrong, but where was he here?
Yes, 100%. He also talked about there never being foreign objects used. I mean, he basically just finished using the word used, and suddenly there was brass knucks, there was Dutch Mantell swinging his rope about the place.
Mm-hmm. Did you suspect that the Vladimir was actually not in Russia? Did you think this was all a ruse, or did you buy it?
I bought it. I was, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I think I was pretty heavily worked by Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
I think somebody came out Jim Horner came out to try and even up the numbers.
Tim Horner, come on, have some respect.
Sorry, Tim.
Tim or Jim or Matt.
Yeah, and I did wonder if we're going to see Bullet Bob Armstrong in the ring as well, because Dutch Mantell was calling him out a wee bit for his commissionership, and I thought that you could see that heading somewhere.
Yep, definitely. Going back to Jimmy Golden, do you remember Bunkhouse Buck from WC? Let me start that again. Bunkhouse Buck from WCW?
I do, yeah.
That's the same guy.
Okay. He's one of those guys where I know the name Bunkhouse Buck, but until you've said that, I couldn't have pictured him. So that's good to know. And
he had like bunkhouse matches with people, didn't he?
Yeah.
What's a bunkhouse?
So all I really remember about it seemed to be like maybe lots of people in a cage. I think they were also a specialty of Dusty Rhodes for a period of time.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also played Jack Swagger Sr., the kayfabe. Wikipedia is very clear to let you know it's a kayfabe father of Jack Swagger.
Okay, that's good to know. So he and Dutch go way back, clearly.
Or way forward, yeah.
Or way forward and way forward, yeah.
There was another guy, a guy that we've come across on our WCW journey, a man that was named the Black Scorpion.
Yes.
And I thought, please give me the voice. And is this, what's his name? Anderson? Which Anderson was it again?
Oh, so it wasn't Arn, it was Ollie.
Ollie Anderson, that's right.
Yeah.
Sting. But under the mask there, that was Jeff Farmer. The fake Sting.
Oh, the fake Sting. Because was there not a point as well where the Black Scorpion ended up being Ric Flair?
Yes.
On one of the things we
yeah,
watched.
it's like the biggest letdown ever. Yeah.
Oh. So I'm assuming it wasn't Ric Flair here because I think he got jobbed out of the building.
He did. I
And it
thought
came across as a big shock.
he got a big entrance and all that, didn't he?
Yeah. It felt like their 1, 2, 3 kid against Razor Ramon moment right there.
I'm just like, that's quite funny. Barry Horowitz doing this whole, like, he's got a hand on the back of his jacket and doing the patting himself on the back gimmick and all that.
Yeah.
It is quite sad to think that he's went there and he's still just jobbing out to people.
I just imagine, like, Cornette phoning him. Hey, like, got a great opportunity for you, Barry. Going to bring you into Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Fantastic. Amazing. I'm known. I've got a name. I can go there. I mean... You're
Relax.
not going to be winning matches, Barry.
I'll get you in the ring in front of these hillbillies, though. First match in against Brian Lee. Yeah, you'll be on the titles for when when the program starts. Getting clotheslined by Brian Lee. But
the show's kind of had this. Were we watching? We've definitely, for some reason, watched some old Raws, like the original Raws, where it's like 40 minutes or something because it was an hour and there's adverts cut out.
Yeah. Before it went to Netflix, remember we started going through 92 and all that, didn't we?
Yes. So because the structure of these is quite similar in that you've got your matches that are tended to be guys that they want you to know and follow against guys that are jobbers, and then you'll have one match on the card where it's established guy against established guy. So it's very similar type of formula. So I wonder if poor Barry Horowitz thought when they're like, bringing you in, going up against Brian Lee, he's like, oh, so that's the main event. And they're like, Barry, you're just not getting this.
He's just basically doing the exact same role as what he was on those Raws, isn't he?
Just in front of a far smaller audience. Sorry, Barry.
100%. Well, is there anything else that you would have wanted to, that you enjoyed or disliked? 'Cause it's funny because we just sat here and spoke for nearly an hour about. Is it the equivalent of like going to see a grandparent that you've not seen in ages, but then if you had to go and visit them every day and wipe their bum for them, that it would just be like, for fuck's sake.
Wow.
Is it a little bit like that?
I thought of it like that, but yeah, maybe, yeah. I think talking about it was more fun than watching it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And maybe, again, we talked about the environment we're watching it, which is binging, and also watching it in isolation, which, if you're there with a crowd and you're all watching the same thing, probably a bit of a different feel to the way it's coming across to you. But yeah, I think there were some moments and there were some characters and some personalities, but it was the repetitive nature of it. And I just don't have faith, having watched these 4, that was going to change.
No. And similar to Lucha Underground, certainly, to start with, it didn't have anything to build to. I know that they ended up doing sort of like tentpole shows maybe halfway through the year or something like that.
Right.
But we were building to a climax of a main event of Smoky Mountain episode 10 or whatever that was going to get 10 minutes or something. So we were never really building to anything, were we?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not doable, is it?
Nah. And it's unfortunate because it probably, in terms of a chunk of something being available to us, it probably is the closest to that old school wrestling thing that we were looking for.
Yep.
It's a shame.
Until they build time machines and we can go and
see
some territory shows of our own, then yeah, I think you're right. But it's not even like, like the standard definition. Nothing bothered me about the presentation of it. In fact, I actually quite liked the presentation of it. I liked the old school looking ring, and the commentators were great. But, yeah.
Nice seeing ring mats not covered in advertising.
Yeah. And entrances being like in and let's go.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
So, thanks for the memories, Smoky Mountain, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can even say that. We'll come back one day.
Yeah. Well, if we ever run out of things to watch, we'll maybe watch the odd episode. Yeah. But, this then creates its own problem, doesn't it? And we've went back and forward, and I was kind of joking at the start. I'm not entirely sure if I do enjoy watching wrestling, but I couldn't really think of anything that I want to watch. I definitely don't want to watch modern wrestling, and you are exactly the same. Yeah. I think we've sort of pushed as far out as we can, as far as sort of obscurity with Lucha Underground. We've watched a lot of TNA. We've tried AEW. That's not particularly for you.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say. WWE has a lot of problems as far as what we now associate people with. So we've struggled to come up with what to watch, and we've genuinely talked about saying do we just stop watching wrestling and watch something else, or and we could watch something like movies with wrestlers in them or something. But this feels like a bit of a Hail Mary. We're gonna go and watch some WWF from a time when it's arguably its most popular. Would you say it was more popular? So we're talking 1999. Would you say it's more popular then than it is now?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I imagine the pure TV ratings from then would blow away anything that gets watched now as a single show.
Yeah.
But the reach now is so much more than it was. I mean, you've got so many shows on Netflix, and Netflix country to country. You can have so many eyeballs on the product. I think it probably was. I'd be interested to know, merchandising numbers then to now compare, because they might not be that different. I think it seemed hotter then, but again, there's maybe more avenues for people and more merchandise options for people now than there were then.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, what the equivalent would be, financially, because nowadays they seem to put some absolutely atrocious, disgusting prices on admission for things, but people are still paying them, so they're still selling out.
Yeah. Yeah, the price of things, I think I saw something about basically the nosebleeds for, alright, it's John Cena's last match on a Saturday night main event, but the price, I can't even remember what the price was, but it was unbelievable for nosebleed seats. They just seem to be completely taking the piss, and that seems to be an endeavour, or what are they called, TKO. That seems to be a thing that they've done with the UFC as well. Yeah.
Does the UFC still sell out? Are they still? Because I remember it becoming really popular, maybe 10, 15 years ago, something like that. And you had star names, you had people that people really gravitated towards, and there aren't the same sort of names that would spark something in my mind now if somebody were to say them. But I wondered if they're still sort of, having success with the same kind of business model as they had.
I think that they are. I definitely don't think it's as successful. I think what I suppose talking for me is somebody that's quite fanatical. back when you're talking about there is that they completely oversaturated, and you could argue that they're doing the same with WWE.
Yeah.
That was something that was quite unique, was that you would get maybe one big show every month.
Mm-hmm.
And it went to, there was a show every week, and even midweek there was fight nights and things like that, and it just takes away the sort of special. But it's just like bleeding the money out of everything they possibly can, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember, I think you switched me onto it, and then there was the TV show with the coaches, the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, the Ultimate Fighter, yeah.
And I found that quite watchable, and the structure of all that, and you knew that it was leading to a match between the two coaches within that. So there was kind of although it's not scripted in the same way that WWE's scripted, there was a sort of story to follow there, which kind of drew me in. And then I don't know, there was just a point where I lost interest, and then I started like not wanting to see people just getting hit a lot. So something changed in my brain, because I happened to be out in a pub on Saturday when there was the fight on the TV in the pub, and it was the first time I'd seen anything for ages. But the main event was over really quickly because of an eye gouge.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's, and I don't think it's anywhere near what it used to be. And I also think that they stopped, well, similar to what they've done with WWE now, where they seem to just not pay people and they're quite happy to let them go. What's his name? Francis Ngannou. They just refused to pay him whatever he was asking, and I think it's quite widely accepted that MMA fighters just don't get paid the money that boxers get, for example. And he's probably just he fought Tyson Fury, didn't he? He boxed Tyson Fury. He probably got
he did
more for that fight than he did
in his career
fighting in the UFC.
So. It's interesting. I was listening to somebody's podcast where they were talking about the business model for WWE, obviously high prices, but also getting, like, I think this annoys a lot of the fans, but getting like a bit of their programming on every network. So they've got deals with so many of the TV networks, and for the fans it's like, well, if you want to see everything, you have to have subscriptions to this and that and that and that, and it's costing you, however, I think I saw a graphic how much it would be costing a person to watch everything, and it was high.
Really?
And then they were sort of saying, like, we don't really get the same in Britain, but it's apparently a deal, a sort of a way that was created by the NFL. They've basically created that model where everyone gets a little bit of it, and the networks are happy with that because they're like, well, maybe this is enough to satisfy this customer's need, so we'll have a little bit of it, and then they're exposed on every platform, and it means they're obviously raking in the money from all those deals.
That's crazy. I mean, it's smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, and that's probably why I take it. That's why you get those. Remember when we used to have the network, and then you'd see that there were these like cool looking biography sort of. Was it A&E?
A&E biographies.
I take it, and they never ended up at the network.
I take it
that's why you get stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, smart from a business point of view, frustrating for the fans.
And you can only assume that a lot of their decisions must be influenced by that sort of marketability and all that sort of stuff as well. It explains why Jey Uso remains fighting for titles. He's fighting CM Punk for a title.
Is he? Okay. I've watched very little of anything. Like I did, there was quite a lot of the Cena AJ Styles match I watched where they were basically just using everyone's finisher that's ever wrestled.
Yeah, what'd you think of that? You didn't watch the whole thing?
Do you know, I suppose if you're going to do it, then that kind of environment where a guy's in his retirement tour, do it in that way. If that was a thing that was happening regularly, it would drive me absolutely insane. The moment that I quite liked, that I thought was the highlight, was it seemed, although these things can be manufactured, like Cena had written the intro for AJ Styles for him
I like
coming
that
into the
well.
match.
Yeah.
And I saw Styles in an interview at some point saying something like it was a John Cena moment that he chose to make a John Cena and AJ Styles moment, and he didn't have to do that. I thought that's pretty cool. But I think the match in isolation, because I'm not watching the programming, I was like, it's a bit much. But let them do their thing. But it's a bit much.
Too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the impression that they both had a hell of a lot of respect for each other, and I think it's easy to have a lot of respect for AJ Styles because he's, that he's put in the grind and been around all those different places and perhaps not been on the top, but he seems to have a lot of respect for Cena, and it comes across, and it's quite nice.
I think he faced him after the sort of Cena switch from being Super Cena and in every main event running for years. I think he did start having matches with these, he had a run of matches with Daniel Bryan and I think Kevin Owens as well.
Right.
And it's, I think these guys probably appreciated the rub of him, I assume John Cena has for a very long time been able to pick his opponents. And if somebody said to you're up against this guy that's really big on the indies, he could have easily been like, no, I'm not. But yeah, so I think Styles is he going out next year? I think he's maybe calling it a day. I think, yeah. Be interesting to see what he chose to do. Like, because you could see him being a good coach if he wanted to do that kind of thing. But yeah, I suppose there'll be plenty of avenues open to.
He'll maybe go and try and prove the flat Earth theory that I think he believes in. So 1999, Adam, we'll be starting with the Royal Rumble, with WWF's Royal Rumble. We won't be doing ECW and WCW or anything like that. We'll just stick with WWF because our mouths are bigger than our belly. I think our eyes are bigger than our belly, I should say. When we tried it in 1998, let's just stick with WWF. We'll be going straight into corporations and ministries and DX, and I think we will find some stuff that we want to perhaps reevaluate how we possibly enjoyed them the first time around, and this is peak Vince Russo, isn't it?
It will be, yeah. It is. I am interested to see how much my tastes have changed, because I think it was maybe 97 I came back to WWE after a bit of a hiatus from all things wrestling, and ended up watching pretty religiously for a good maybe 5 years.
Right.
So I'll be really interested to see what I still enjoy, what I know I enjoyed, but now I really don't, because that's bound to happen with at least some of this. And I think we have watched some shows where we're like, I remember this being really good, and we're like, oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. And I think that we know that now, given what we've done over the last few years. I think that we'll probably be going in thinking this is going to be terrible, and it might be quite entertaining. I suppose we just have to. No, I'm not going to use the word that. I'm not going to use the word swallow. We have to accept that Vince McMahon's going to be part of these shows. He's going to be pretty front and centre because the Austin McMahon thing's still going. And whilst it's potentially uncomfortable, I think we just accept that that's what it is. What it is.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I think it is going to be interesting. Were you actively watching regularly?
99, yeah. I think I came back in 98. I can recall being at a friend's house. When would Gangrel and was that 98?
Yeah, probably 98.
I can recall a Raw being on and being like, what the fuck? Like, just being, like quite taken aback by, is this what wrestling is now? And I remember seeing Gangrel and just being a bit like, I think I might actually be quite interested in what's going on here. WrestleMania, getting into like, what was WrestleMania 14? 98, aye. Aye. Because
Right.
15's 99.
Yeah.
I round about that time. So I was watching. I loved WrestleMania 15. I thought it was the absolute bee's knees, and we'll watch it, and I don't think it will be.
Yeah. Was it 17 that we watched thinking it would be really good? No, 17 is really good.
17 is really good, aye. That's the Austin.
Is 16 the 4-way?
Aye.
Yeah, okay. Which I think maybe isn't that bad a Mania, but the main event's terrible.
Aye. But
Yeah.
you've got the 3-way for the European and Intercontinental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved that at the time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay.
And you've got who's coming out with Godfather, Pimpin' Easy, man. That's right at the start, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, 99. You're going to have to get your big boy pants on because The Rock's going to hit Mankind with about 100 chair shots.
Yeah, I am, wary of how I'll feel watching that because I don't think I was even comfortable watching that when I was properly enjoying it because it just seemed far too much. And then what was it featured in where you can tell he's gone too far and he's fine? Yeah. And having seen that, I remember sort of thinking, that was all pretty unnecessary, wasn't it?
Yeah, his children, he hit him too many. Oh, well, let's speak about it next time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh. I don't remember any of the other matches. Do you want me to look them up before we go?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember. I want to say that 1999 is maybe for the title. No, Rock Mankind's for the title, wasn't it? Aye. Rock Mankind's for the title.
Okay.
1999. I was thinking Austin. I think maybe Austin's number 1 in the Rumble. Here we go. Cards, Royal Rumble 1999. Oh man, the dark match was Christian versus Jeff Hardy. Big Boss Man versus Road Dogg. This is non-title match. Intercontinental title match, Ken Shamrock versus Billy Gunn.
Okay.
European title match, X-Pac versus Gangrel.
Okay.
Sable versus Luna in a strap match. Remember that now. Mankind v The Rock and the Royal Rumble match.
Okay. So, this is the year that we get the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be after
That'll be the
Rumble.
next pay-per-view.
Yeah. I remember loving that when I was younger. Yeah. There was something... the finish now of the main event seems basic, but I loved it at the time. I just thought it was really clever the way it was done.
Well, the way the cage opens when he throws him through it. That's Paul White.
That's Paul White, yeah. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, remember you will remember the bump that Vince takes when he lands right on the corner of the table when he falls off the cage.
Yeah,
and sort of bounces up in the air and then lands.
Maybe enjoy that now.
Yeah. Class. Right.
Okay.
Well, we'll reconvene for that in a couple of weeks then.
Excellent.
Are you trepidatious? Are you looking forward to it with a little bit of apprehension?
I'm kind of curious. Like, I know how I'll probably feel when Vince is all over the screen, which I'll be just like, fuck that guy. But I'm just so curious to see what my thoughts on it are now.
Yeah. I think I know what your thoughts will be. But we'll see. Cool. All right. You take it easy and we'll speak in 2 weeks.
Cheers.
Cheers.